All right, hey there everybody. I know I jumped on just a couple minutes early, but I was playing with the Zoom that I've been having trouble with the last couple of weeks, and I got it to where I like it. So I'm gonna do this. You're not gonna see my face right away, but I'll wave hi so that you know I'm here. And that's just so that we can, like I said, you can see hopefully a little clearer what I'm gonna do tonight. So I'm just gonna talk to myself for a few minutes. Like I said, I know I jumped on a little bit early. Again, I wanted to just play and make sure I got the camera into focus. So I think if for some reason the Zoom thing is working right now, so yay. Not sure what's been going on with it the last couple of weeks, but anyway, it's here and we're here, and it was a holiday weekend. I hope everybody got to do something fun. It turned out I was pleasantly surprised by the weather we had up at the lake. We had thought it was supposed to be kind of chilly and overcast and a little yucky, and it turned out Saturday was just beautiful. Not super hot, but enough to be able to go out on the boat and make our middle son super happy. Zachary loves the boat. So, and all he wants to do on the boat is go fast. So, so he put on some long sleeves, and Daddy drove really fast around the lake, and he was a very happy boy. So that is always nice to have a smile on that kiddo's face for sure. And we enjoyed some really good family time, played some games. My oldest and my youngest did a little outdoor fun, tried to dip their toes in the water a little bit, but just barely because it was pretty darn chilly to actually be in the lake. So that's definitely something that's gonna wait for a couple more months. Okay, so like I said, I popped on a few minutes early just to figure out the camera angles because I've been having trouble with that the last couple of weeks. So I'll wait for a few more people to hop on, and while we do that, I'm going to describe to you what I'm gonna be working with tonight. I chose my DSP from the Simply Elegant suite of products. The Simply Elegant stamp set is pretty much just that. Very, okay, I'm gonna use my favorite word here. It's a little frou-frou, more frou-frou than I normally would go for. But this piece I actually love a lot more than I thought I was going to. Generally that's not the way I go with my particular stamping style, but hi Mom, yeah, I agree. It was a great weekend. I hope you and Dad had a really good drive back home. They popped in to say hi for a few minutes on Sunday, so that was nice. Okay, so the fonts though are really cute. I like those. But what I really love is the designer series paper. So it has a touch of metallic foil on every sheet on one side. You have a combination of gold, copper, and silver throughout. So as you can see, these guys all have this, probably like reflecting totally in your eyes. So there's a shimmer. Hey Jessie, I hope you had one too. So there's gold, and this one is copper and silver. This one is like one of my favorites. Like that's just, oh, wish you could see this in person. All right, and this one has a touch of copper. Might even actually have all three of them in it. Yeah, it does. Copper, gold, and silver. This one is a really pretty gold on kind of like a dark gray, basic gray background. This one has just tiny little bit gold diamonds, tiny little pattern. And then this is silver on, again, a dark gray background. And then the opposite sides do not have metallic in them, but they're all basically a black and white and gray color scheme, which is fun to use for kind of like a monotone look. I would say some of these especially even pull off a really good masculine pattern, like the checks and the little stripes and the little plus signs. It sort of is like, it's like three little dots that kind of make up a plus sign. So, so I really think this one is fun to play with. I love the touches of metallic just to give your projects just a little bit of shimmer and shine. I'm always a one that's like, yay, let's add the bling. So this is a great way to add the bling. Oh, things are falling into the camera shot here. All right, let me move that up there a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about what we were gonna do tonight. Here is what you should have ready. You should have a piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. You should also have 3 pieces of that same cardstock that are 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 square. You should have 3 pieces of designer series paper or some kind of pattern paper that's 1 by 1, each of them 1 by 1, and a neutral color. You know, I wanted to mention this too. Sometimes, you know, I usually refer to neutral as a white or a vanilla. There are also some lovely shades of browns and grays that you can consider to be neutral as well. So basically it's just something that doesn't clash, it coordinates and clashes, but it's sort of like the base background kind of thing. So my 4 5 and a quarter, and you should have some ribbon that's about 6 inches long. Okay, I'm going to switch over and put my white sheet down in front of me because I am working with dark stuff today. So my card base is black. So this is my 5.5 by 8.5. So you are going to want to go ahead and score that and then set that aside. Again, my 1 1/4 squares are black. And then I used that little one from, or the sheet of the DSP that had the tiny little gold diamonds in it and black little plus signs kind of. And those are gonna go onto your squares. So go ahead and mount those right away with your adhesive. And you should have a nice healthy border around each of those because it's about 1/8 of an inch around each side because we have a 1/4 inch difference between the sizes. All right, and there's number 2. And here's number 3. Okay, so got those all mounted. Okay, I am going to be using vanilla for my neutral because there's vanilla in the base of my DSP. And I have gold shimmer ribbon. It's about 1/4 inch wide. And they've added this to the catalog this year. We used to have it in gray granite only, and now it also comes in gold. It's kind of like a satiny, so a little slippery finish, but really pretty sparkle and sheen. So take your ribbon and you're going to want to, we're going to use this as a guide for stamping. So we're not going to put anything down permanently yet. I'm just using this as a guide for my stamping. So about 3/4 to 1 inch away from the left edge of the cardstock. Actually, I should go back to my dark. Here we go. So again, just for visual. And then take one of your squares about in the middle. Again, this is just for visualization purposes. Okay, so you know about where you're going to want to put your phrases. So you should have a stamp set, words or phrases or something that's going to fill in a space over here. I think I gave you a dimension. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's about 1.5 inch wide, I think, by a certain amount of height. I'm going to be using Biggest Wish again. I believe I used this either last week or the week before. So I'm going to use 2 big words from here to put together to make that space fill in for myself here. Okay, so I'm going to get out my Memento black ink. And I'm going to start, now since I have 2 words, I'm going to start a little lower than the middle. If you have one phrase that's all on one piece, I would center that top to bottom, left to right, between the edge of the square and the edge of your neutral panel. So again, mine's going to drop down just a little bit because I have 2 words. So there is my friend. Nope, kind of popped off there. We'll figure it out. All right, now that I have a base for that, I can pull those aside. And I'm going to have my hello. Okay, so I have hello friend to fill in that space for me. All right, so I will let you guys catch up. Make sure you've got your stamped phrase there. And again, if you have a very smaller phrase, I'll show you a sample that I have where I used a very small phrase and filled it in with some other stuff. So you can kind of take up some of the white space, or blank space, I guess you could call it. I usually refer to it as white space, with other little stamps or some embellishments or something like that. Okay, so now you're gonna take your 6 inches of ribbon and your glue dots, and you're gonna put a glue dot on the end of each piece of the ribbon. Like so. And then again, we were about 3/4 to 1 inch away from the edge, and just wrap that around so that the glue dots are touching in the back. Okay, now let me just double check, make sure. Yep, I think I like the way that placement works. All right, now remember another alternative if that's really hard for you to work with. If you have that longer length of ribbon, you could take some Scotch tape, and when you're on the back side there, just put the whole piece of tape over the end. If that's a little bit easier for your fingers to work with, that's a great solution for that as well. It holds it in place and it gets a little easier or bigger to work with than the glue dots sometimes. So if that's an issue for fingers for you, please go ahead and do that. Okay, now you're gonna take your 3 squares. Actually, let's put this on the card front first. Okay, so we're gonna add adhesive to the back of that. Now that we have our ribbon on it, my adhesive's being stubborn. There we go. And we're gonna put that on the card front. I'll switch back to my white paper since I have black cardstock. And again, if you have dark cardstock like I do, you're probably gonna want another 4 by 5 1/4 panel for the inside for you to stamp or write your sentiment. Okay, now here you have a choice. It depends on how much, bulk or dimension you wanna put into your card, especially if you're gonna be mailing it, something to consider. You can simply tape these down, adhere them down directly. I'm gonna give you a visual of where we're going here, okay? So you can put adhesive on those and put them all down directly. So I would start in the middle, line that up against where your phrase is, so you've got a center, and then make an equal space above and below. You could go a little further if you want more space, or again, closer if you want just a little space. This is a little bit of cook's choice. You decide how you like it. So again, that would be, if you want it direct, again, put all the adhesive on the back. That's totally no problem. If you want a little bit of dimension, then you can take your dimensionals. I'm gonna use the really teeny ones. And because you have a ribbon going down the middle, I recommend putting them on the edges like so that the ribbon can run in between them. They'll adhere better if they're sticking to your actual cardstock than if they are sticking to your ribbon. Okay, so put that one down, again, across from your phrase. And I'm gonna add my dimensionals to these. Now I wanna point out this layout can work with just about any sizes of squares you wanna use. If you have a DSP pattern that's really got a big pattern to it, and you're obviously not gonna see very much of it when you're only using a 1 by 1 kind of piece. So you could definitely use, bump that up. Go to 1 1/4, 1 1/2, something like that. I would probably not go too much larger than that just for spacing purposes. But there again, that just makes this area smaller, and it'll help to have your little phrases that would fill in that space better. See if I can zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Yay, my Zoom is working this week. It's making me so happy. Okay, so there's mine. Again, sorry for the shimmer reflection because I have some metallic going on in my card base. So again, little square lined up across from your phrase, and attach that down. You can, again, remember you can put those directly on your card base if you don't want to do the dimensioning. All right, so while you guys are finishing up, I'll show you my alternatives. This one uses the hand pen DSP and the evergreen ribbon, the new evergreen in color ribbon, and Love of Leaves, which is on page 115. And Love of Leaves has these really pretty shaded, or what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I'm having that little brain fog again. Okay. They're shaded in the stamp itself. So when you stamp them, they're going to have dimension of color, and they have a matching stamp set that has little stitching around it. Super, super cute. But I love these little fonts and the phrases. So I use the Your Friendship is Something I Know I Can Count On. And that fills up kind of like a nice space there as well. Okay. And again, that's the hand pen DSP on page 131, the evergreen ribbon 139, and the stamp set is page 115. Okay, then this is the one I was talking to you about where I used just a little phrase. So I got the You Touched My Heart from the Plentiful Plants, and that is on page 81, and it coordinates with a die set. So there's the plants and a bunch of little phrases, and the die set will cut out the pots and some hangers that you can put them. You can make these really cute silhouette, or not silhouette, the scenery type thing with a bunch of plants across something, or a window, or hanging stuff. I'm going to have some more samples of this one coming out in the next week or two. I have a swap that I need to do using that set, so that'll be fun to see. All right, so again, I used the gold shimmer ribbon. That's on page 140. And I used Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper for this one. And this is Cajun Craze, so I took, because I wanted to fill in some of the space, I took one of my stamp images from that stamp set, and I just touched them into the corners. So it took up, you can see if they weren't there, that would be a lot of white space to be looking at. It was a little plain, so I filled it in with some stamped imagery. So you could do the same thing. If you have a smaller size stamp set, add a few smaller sized either images, or I'll show you on the next one I used, it's my stepped up version of the one I did on camera here tonight, so I'll show you that again. There is the one I did on camera. And here's my stepped up version. Now what I did was I started with the same 1-inch designer series paper and the 1 1/4 black square, but in between those I added a gold foil layer. And then instead of ribbon, I used tiny little strips of gold foil to mimic where that's gonna go. I used the stamp set, because even though it does have those really big words in it, there's this tiny little image of these little pluses. So I put those a couple places and I embossed them in gold embossing powder. And then for some extra bling, I put in rhinestones that I colored with my black blend, Stampin' Blend marker. So it darkened them up a little bit. They're still sparkly, but they look a little darker black. So that is, again, here, I'll hold them side by side for you. So there's the stepped up version. So all you have to do is play with the sizing of the squares. So again, though, the DSP and the black are the same as on here, so 1 inch and 1 1/4, and the gold foil just fills in between, it's 1 1/8. And again, I used little strips of cardstock instead of ribbon. So you could do that, you could absolutely do that too. If you don't have ribbon handy, do another strip of cardstock that coordinates with whatever DSP you got going on. There's lots of ways that you can do with this. And two, if you wanted to flip the orientation, and if you had a nice long phrase to go here, you could flip that into the horizontal orientation as well, and that would make just as lovely of a card. So, okay guys, there it is for tonight. I will set these here and bring in those other samples. Whoop, we gotta go a little higher so you can see. There we go. And again, a little higher. I cast my thing to my TV so I can see what you're seeing. There we go. Okay. So there you go. Those are my samples for tonight. I will get those posted on the Facebook page. I'll share this video to YouTube as well. You'll be able to find that in a couple of hours probably. I hope you all had a fabulous holiday long weekend and be ready to get back to normal tomorrow, I guess. That alarm clock at 6:30 tomorrow morning is going to feel pretty early after being off for 4 days. All right, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining me tonight, and I will see you next week. Bye.